We didn't really think of it as being this long. It's just going to be a break for a minute to kind of get everybody's attitude down a little bit. It's just that right after that, All Night Long happened. Endless Love.
Did they call you?
The Commodore. This band gave us unforgettable songs and memories, but the group members were not always filled with the same happiness, so you would like to get the Commodore together again. Oh gosh, yes, so 30 years I've been trying to do this. Did you know that a few of the members even experienced tragic and heartbreaking endings? What went wrong? And how did things end so sadly for some of them? Let's look deeper into their lives and find the group name came by a lucky accident. Music Out. They were arguably the biggest soul band in the world in the late 70s and early 80s, but before they were famous, they were just a group of college friends trying to make music in town. Legends, the Commodore. They dominated the charts in the 1970s. You probably remember them with their massive hits like Brick House, Easy, 3 Times a Lady. The band started with 2 smaller student groups, the Mystics and the Jays, that came together at Tuskegee University in Alabama. Some of the members from the Mystics were Lionel Richie, Thomas McClary, and William King. None of it would have happened if a young man named Thomas McClary hadn't overheard someone whistling while waiting in line at a university in America's South. That someone was Lionel Richie. Thomas McClary, guitarist, talked about how he met Lionel Richie in an interview. Thomas was standing in the registration line at Tuskegee University when he heard someone behind him whistling a jazz tune by Eddie Harris, so he turned around and asked, "Are you a musician?" The young man was shy and replied, "No, not really." Thomas explained that he was forming a band for the freshman talent show and was looking for musicians. The young man, Lionel, said he lived nearby and could gather some guys for an audition at his grandmother's house across the street. I was amazed at the fact that he was so innocent and we were just a freshman, both of us, and I was set on trying to find some guys to put a band together, 'cause I wanted to meet some girls. When Thomas arrived at Lionel's grandmother's house, he was surprised to see Lionel coming down the stairs playing a saxophone. Thomas laughed and said, "I thought you said you weren't a musician." Lionel humbly replied, "I play a little bit." Thomas knew right then that Lionel was perfect for the band. Our lead singer had gotten drafted to the Vietnam War, and we needed a substitute. "You know," I said. "Hey man, you sound great." "What do you mean I sound great?" "Yes, you do." "So he didn't even realize that he had that gift." "No, he didn't." "Very innocent guy." Just the band performed at the freshman talent show, and to their surprise, when they didn't have their own equipment, so they borrowed from another campus band, the Jays. When some members of the Jays graduated, Thomas and his friends merged with them. They needed equipment, and the Jays needed more members. The Jays included Andre Callahan, Michael Gilbert, and Milan Williams. When these 6 talented students joined forces, they decided to pick a new name for their band. William King came up with the name Commodores by a lucky accident. One day he opened a dictionary, ran his finger down the page, and landed on Commodore. He laughed, saying they were lucky because they could have ended up with a much less appealing name like the Commodores. First breakthrough into the music industry were one of the defining sounds of a sort of funk vibe. Well, we wanted to set a new trajectory for music. Thomas McClary shared about the early days when they would drive all night just to get to New York, hoping to find a chance to the YMCA, hoping to trade some work for a room. But when they came back outside, they found that all their music equipment had been stolen. With no money and no instruments, they felt desperate. They ended up at a famous spot in Harlem called Small's Paradise, where big bands often played. A guy there offered to help them get their equipment back if they paid $50, but they didn't have it. Surprisingly, this man, who later became their manager, Benny Ashburn, lent them The money he even set up an audition for. Them at Smalls they impressed everyone. By dancing and playing at the same time. Which was new to the audience there. Performance led to a great relationship. With Benny who helped launch their careers at Smalls they even got after. Recording contract with Motown. Benny Ashburn became the manager of the group. He met his longtime friend Susan DePass, whom Berry Gordy has hired to help him bring new talent to his label. Gordy trusted Suzanne because she was already successful in the music business. One of Suzanne's first projects set at town was working with a young group called the Jackson 5 who had just appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show and were starting to get very popular. To help them grow even more, the Jackson 5 needed an opening act to tour. With them, the Commodores were known for putting on amazing shows, so Suzanne thought they'd be perfect to open for the Jackson 5. The Commodores got the chance to tour with the Jackson 5 for 2 years. This experience made them more popular and allowed them to prove their talent on a big stage after the tour. Berry Gordy was impressed enough to sign the Commodores to their first recording contract with Motown. Kicking off their successful career in music, the Commodores started gaining attention with their instrumental song Machine Gun. The tune became popular at sports events and was even featured in movies like Boogie Nights and Looking for Mr. Goodbar. It made it to number 122 on the Billboard 100 chart. Another song, I Feel Sanctified, was a funky track that inspired later bands like Wild Cherry, who recorded the famous Play That Funky Music. The Commodores even made a short appearance in the 1978 film Thank God It's Friday. In the movie, they performed their energetic song Too Hot to Trot to during a dance contest, while their hits Brick House, Music, and Easy were also featured in the film. Music, Easy. Departure of Lionel Richie from the group. You didn't want to leave the Commodores. Is that true? No, I had no, and I just always assumed that you were like, okay, I'm Lon Richie now, I'm ready to go and be all go on my own. However, amidst the success, the group decided to take a break from recording and touring. During this time, Lionel Richie, the lead singer, decided to work on a solo album. Encouraged by Motown to give it a try, his solo album became a huge success, and that pushed Richie to pursue a solo career. But this choice did not go over well with everyone in the Commodores, and even today there are some hard feelings about it. We didn't really think of it as being this long. It's just going to be a break for a minute to kind of get everybody's attitude down a little bit. It's just that right after that all night long happened. Endless love. Did they call you and say, hey, you know what, we changed our mind? No, that never happened. That never happens. It too late now? No, it's a little late. Too late. The Commodores continued without Richie, but things were not the same. William King, one of the original members, opened up about his feelings on the split. In an interview in 1985, he shared that he wasn't upset just because Richie left. It was the way he left that hurt. King explained that Richie kept promising to come back to the group after each project he worked on outside of the Comers. Richie first said he'd return after working with Kenny Rogers, then after working with Diana Ross, and finally after his own solo album. Each time the group was left waiting, unable to tour or make new music because promoters didn't want to book them without Richie. King used a strong example to explain just how big a deal it was. He asked, would they book the Beatles without Paul M. Nay to the Commodores? Richie was their McCartney, a crucial part of their sound and appeal. But instead of making a clean break or telling the band directly that he wasn't coming back, Richie kept them in limbo. The group eventually decided to move forward without him, but the process left a mark. Richie, on the other hand, has said in interviews that he didn't mean to. Financially, however, the other member of the band, Thomas McClary, shared his thoughts about the feud within the group. He pointed out that jealous can be a dangerous feeling he praised Lionel. Richie saying Lionel is very talented, he has a great voice and is a wonderful writer. McClary believes that even if some band members don't want to admit Lionel's talent, it doesn't change the fact that he's great. McClary also mentioned that William King is often seen as a problem. He said William is probably the least talented one of us all, and he has been the main stumbling block. He also feels that Walter Orange, another band member, listens too much to King, which makes things worse. When asked if he would like to have a Commodore reunion, Mlar was excited and said yes, I would love it. He talked about how he has spent nearly 30 years trying to make it happen. He shared a memory from 2008 when Lionel invited him and Ronald Lead to perform together in New Zealand. The fans love seeing them on stage again. In fact, Lana, Richie, and Ronald and I actually performed in New Zealand recently, and we performed in New Orleans, and 65,000 people showed up, so there's an appetite for the reunion, obviously. McClary also mentioned that in 2009, Lionel wanted them to perform at the Essence Music Festival in New Orleans. They tried to invite the other band members, but the bitterness was too strong. Some haven't spoken to Lionel in 40 years. Mlar feels frustrated, saying, "Come on, you've forgotten what you're mad about." It's clear that Mlar hopes for a time when they can all come together. Thomas McClary left the band also. Again, it was that bad. After Lee Ritchie left the group, he was replaced by Skylar Jett as a new co-lead singer, another of the founding members. Thomas McClary decided to leave the group. He wanted to start a solo career and create a gospel music company. In a recent interview, he shared his thoughts on why he and Lionel Richie left. Mlar explained that things were changing in the band. He noticed that some of the members were not as excited about the music anymore. They got distracted by other things in their lives. This made him feel like he needed to help keep the band strong. Mlar also mentioned a sad moment when Benny Ashburn, their longtime manager and a big part of the band, passed away. His death affected everyone. It was tough because Mlar felt like they were winning as a band, but some members weren't playing their best. He compared it to a sports team. Even if you're not the one scoring the points, you still want the team to win. After leaving the Commodore, Mlar and Lionel Richie worked on projects with other artists. They wrote songs together for Kenny Rogers and Diana Ross, including a song for the famous movie Endless Love. Mlar wanted to remind everyone that they were doing great, even if not everyone felt the same way. After Mlar left, he was replaced by guitarist and vocalist Sheldon Reynolds. Reynolds brought a new energy to the group, but soon after Sheldon left to join the famous band Earth, Wind and Fire. This left the Commodore without a guitarist, so William W. King, a trumpeter, decided to take over on guitar during their live shows a few years later. Another important member, keyboardist Milan Williams, left the plane crash incident band, but before he left, he went through a scary experience. He was flying a single-engine plane when something went wrong. He had to crash land the plane on a busy freeway in Phoenix, Arizona. It was a very dangerous situation, but thankfully Milan and the band's press agent got out of the plane without any injuries. The plane, however, caught fire and was completely, which had been very successful. After he left, the band began to change its style and moved away from the funky sound that had made them famous. This was a tough time for the group as they tried to find their new identity without one of their key members. Sadly, the story doesn't end well for Milan Williams. In the years after leaving the Commodore, he was diagnosed with leukemia, a type of cancer. He fought hard against the disease, but after 2 years of struggling, he passed away in 2006. His death was a heavy blow to the band and their fans. Many people who love the Commodore were heartbroken to hear the news of his passing. Milan was not just a great musician, he was also a significant part of the group's history. The band also faced other challenges. Ronald Lead, the bassist, left the Commodore as well and moved to New Zealand. He dealt with his own issues after leaving the band, and life became different for him too. The loss of Milan and the changes in the band made it harder for the Commodore to keep their original spirit. Financial and legal disputes. Music alive. Mourning also, like many bands that have been around for a long time, they have faced some serious financial and legal problems among their members. These issues mainly revolve around the band's name and how money from their music is shared as the original members follow different paths. It became harder to reunite without tension. The trouble began when McClary began using the name the Commodore in 2013 for his own band, while King and Orange continued to perform as the Commodore with different musicians. This led to confusion among fans and created a need for legal action. This led to a long legal battle with other band members, including William King and Walter Orange. In 2018, a court in Florida made a decision that favored the remaining members of the Commodore. The court ruled that only they could use the band's name through a company they had set up. The court found two main reasons for their ruling. First, they stated that the original members who kept performing together as the Commodore had common law trademark rights to the name. This means that they had the legal right to use the name because they were the ones still active as the group. Second, various agreements made by the band over the years showed that ownership of the group's name was shared among all the members, but it didn't allow a single member to use it alone if they left the group. The court decided that the original members who stayed with the band have the rights to the name even if a founding member leaves. Law was allowed to say he was an original member of the Commodore, but he couldn't use the name to promote himself or his music. This meant he couldn't call his band the Commodore featuring Thomas McClary or the 2014 Commodore, as this could confuse fans about which group they were. Changing sounds and industry challenges. Into the lyrics of Night Shift to honor him. From then on they started mentioning Michael Jackson and other well-known R&B singers who had passed away. This moment inspired the band to re-record Night Shift with new lyrics as a tribute to Jackson. On the first anniversary of his death, the group were inspired by legendary artists like Santana, Jimi Hendrix, Albert King, James Taylor, and the group Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. These musicians all have different styles, but they share a deep, soulful vibe. The Commodore wanted to blend these influences together to create something special. They aimed for a raw, raunchy sound that would be authentic and appealing to everyone. The band's creativity paid off, leading them to great success. The Commodore have sold over 70 million albums worldwide. That's an incredible number. Their music has resonated with fans from many walks of life. They are known for their smooth melodies and catchy tunes that get people singing along. The Commodore have received plenty of recognition for their work too. They were inducted into the Alabama Music Hall of Fame and the Vocal Group Hall of Fame. These honors show how much the music community respects them. They have also been nominated for 9 Grammy Awards, which is a big deal in the music industry. They won 1 Grammy, adding to their list of achievements. Over the years, the Commodore have stayed active in the music world. As of 2020, the band still included 3 key members: Walter Clyde Orange, J.D. Nicholas, and William W. King, along with a 5-piece band they call the Mean Machine. Together, they continue to perform at arenas, theaters, and festivals around the world, keeping their music alive for old fans and new listeners alike. Their music has touched people worldwide, and their legacy continues today. Even with all the ups and downs, the Commodore remain dedicated to performing and honoring the